So let's talk about the world of salary negotiations. This is a very important topic, and a lot of people don't negotiate. So, I wanted to hear from you maybe some of the biggest hurdles when it comes to salary negotiations.
Yeah, I think the question is very relevant, Rishabh, not just for people who are looking for a job, but also entrepreneurs. So I'm going to do my best and address it for both, because I know you have these two types of audience who listen to the show.
Yeah,
So
before you jump in, I completely agree because for entrepreneurs,
yeah,
uh, they could be on the other side of the table, and it's important for
yeah,
them to
yeah.
understand when they're hiring someone and that individual is negotiating, not to be offended by the negotiation, that it is
No.
just part of the process, and that if they value an employee, they have to show the value right from the front.
Oh yeah, 100%. And where I was coming from is that when entrepreneurs are negotiating with their clients,
Yeah, correct.
you call it something else. You call it their fees, or you call it a commission, or you call it, the payout or whatever. It's the same thing. At the end of the day, I want a little more than what they gave me. How do I ask without looking like a total douchebag, right?
Yeah.
So, what is the number one reason that people don't negotiate? What is the biggest obstacle? I think it's the F word, fear. I'm not sure what you were thinking. So it's like, oh gosh, there are three types of fear. Number one, if I ask for more, they're going to rescind the offer. Like, that is weird. That is rare. That is rare. If someone, like, if you rescind an offer, I've seen that happen. That's, it's rare. But when it happens, it's big things, in force majeure, crisis happened, or 9/11 or something, and McKinsey wasn't hiring anymore, or they took BCG. I've seen that happen, sure.
Or the pandemic.
Pandemic
Pandemic hit.
happened
Yeah.
and our clients are not hiring, so we don't need people, right? So
Mhm.
those are the big things. So that's very relevant to today. But when you hear like, oh, this woman tried to negotiate and they took the offer away, there's something else there. It's very rare. So I don't want people to think that happens. It's so rare. It's like 0.000% that you don't even have to worry about it. People don't rescind the offer. The second fear is, if I ask for more, they won't like me. Guess what? Now, here for job seekers, 81% of all recruiters out there expect you to negotiate. They expect you to negotiate. And if you do, and let's say you're going into a role which requires some level of influence or negotiation or persuasion, they are going to be impressed with your negotiation skills. So this is a great time to close the deal and make them think, wow, Rishabh's amazing. He asked for more, but the way he asked it, like, I just want to like throw my credit card to him. So that's, um, I'm not saying, I'm not naive, but it's it's not the case that if I ask for more money, what will they think of me? They won't like me. They're going to think I'm money minded. No, they won't. They expect you to negotiate. And the third fear that people have is, what if they say no? Guess what? That's status quo anyway. What's the worst that'll happen? They'll say no, but it's whether, if you don't ask, it's no anyway, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, no, I completely agree. What I like to ask is, you have a list of salary negotiation strategies and tips. What
Yes.
would those be? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, fantastic. So I have a sort of an approach which is 10 steps. And Rishabh, I have a thing for acronyms. So I've put it in an acronym format. First step, I already talked about fear, why we don't negotiate. So you've got to find a way to punch the fear in the face. You've got to do it. There's no other way. A lot of some pain, some gain, a lot of nice things on the other side of this one. So I'm telling you the steps in a different order, but when I summarize it for you, I'll put it in the right order. The second thing to remember is, you and the potential employer have the same goal. You don't think that they are in it to get you, and this is a battleground, and it's you against them and scarcity mindset. No, they took ages, probably months to find you. They went through 7, 8 people, rounds and rounds of interviews. They shortlisted 2 or 3. but they only make an offer. No company makes an offer to two. It's rare. They only make an offer to one. So if you have an offer, their goal is to make sure you're happy with the offer you receive. Your goal is to make sure you're happy with the offer you receive. So if you think about it, you have the same goal. It's like a football field, but you're both on the same side. Remember that, because there's a lot of pushy sort of, no, you must do this, you got to play hardball. I don't know. Being on the other side, and I've recruited maybe, I don't know, I've interviewed like 5,000, 5,500 people over 20 years. I always get turned off when somebody comes across as too strong. And one of the things you can pay attention to is, what is your negotiation style? There's 5 types of negotiation styles. I'm not going to go into this right now, but just Google it.
Mhm.
So it's important to know yourself first. So um, this was the second step, the same team. The third is do your homework, right? And online is not enough. People say do Glassdoor, payscale.com, salary.com is very specific to the United States. But sometimes I find that those salaries are outdated. So my best tip is find some of your friends or friend of a friend, anybody that you feel you can trust, and ask, what would a position in my area of interest in this city, in a company of this size, what would it make? Because then when you ask that and then you corroborate with Glassdoor or salary.com or Payscale, you have a much better idea. The next step is to know I'm going to throw an acronym to you, know your man. What is your man? Your minimum acceptable number. Do the math and say, okay, what do I need to make to have a comfortable life? And that's my minimum. I've got enough for the mortgage, enough for the car, everything, kids, schools, all of that. You need to know what your man is, minimum acceptable number. Once you know your man, the other thing you need to know is, you get a salary and the offer, you get an offer for 100,000 and it looks fantastic on paper. Ask them if they have someone in their payroll or accounting department who can do some sort of a simulation of gross to net calculation. Because if you don't do this, there's nothing wrong with it, but if you don't do it, you might get a little bit surprised, because you'll see certain deductions that you had not thought about before. There's nothing more disappointing than starting your work first month, so excited, you get the paycheck, like, what? You feel cheated, even though it was not your fault or whatever. The next thing is, everything is negotiable. Everything, everything. You say it, it's negotiable. I'm not saying you should negotiate, but increase the size of the pie. If they say no to salary, for example, and they're really strict and they have open ball, everybody knows everybody's salary. Sometimes you see those sort of bohemian hippie, everybody knows what the CEO is making, etc. I'm like, oh, that's great. So, okay, I can't do that. Okay, how about bonus? Okay, how about childcare? What if I want to study? Will you pay for my MBA? Okay, just ask. What's the worst that'll happen? All of those things, it's worth finding out, and that's E. Everything is negotiable. The next one is obvious, very obvious. If you can have other offers, maybe another offer, like singular. So you have this offer and then you have another offer. And that will obviously act as leverage. You're less desperate. I have Google and I have this other company. It's nice when you have a choice. You can choose and you make your pros and cons list, right? So one thing to be careful of is, when you have the other offer, is to ask nicely and to say, hey, listen, I'm actually also, in talks with another company and they have shared the offer with me as well. Can I just share with you, I really, really like your offer and I want to make this one work. You dropped something, but you didn't say it in a threatening way. How you ask matters, not just the fact that you ask.
That
So,
comes back to the likability. That
it
comes
comes
back to
hugely back to the life. And that's a very close, that's a good segue for the next step, which is always be polite. Always be polite and courteous, because you've worked so hard to earn their goodwill, right? And keep doing that. Have empathy. I understand. No, I know exactly where you're coming from. Would it be possible if I ask you this? Hey, I'm just wanted to clarify something with, taking permission, showing gratitude. I'm so excited and I've got this offer from you. My gosh, I can't wait to start. I just had a few sort of wrinkles to iron with you. Could we go through that together? People like that language. And the last one I want to say from experience, because I made this mistake, is when you get the offer, take your time. Do not sign in front of them, no matter how excited you are. And particularly, this is true for returners. If they haven't worked for 2 years or 8 years, the first offer that comes, oh my God, I'm so grateful. Wow, this is so much money. Okay, hold your horses, go home, share it with your partner, share it with your friend, do the math, know your man, even if they gave you double of what you were expecting. And it's so interesting, Risha, because I'm reading and replying to every single comment on that YouTube channel. This is really fun. And you see people from around the world. And I love what Gary Vee says. I'm like, yeah, but Gary, what are you doing with your competitors? Like, he's like, I don't care about them, but I care about what my people, when they watch me, I care about what they say. I want to see that. So here you see all kinds of things. And one of the things they say is, so Sonal, this was a great video. And, I did everything you said, and they gave me double of what I was expecting. But I had not negotiated. I did good, interviews, and I got a lot of tips from you. I didn't negotiate because I didn't need to negotiate, because they gave me double what I was. And I'm like, okay. And then why are you telling me this? That's okay, right? I'm like, no, it's a
You
big
could have
mistake.
negotiated.
It's a big mistake. You can always negotiate. You can always ask for more. What is wrong? You're saving that money, and you've got to look out for yourself. This was number 9. And number 10 is a very weird one. There's some research out there that says people like Thursdays. So if you're negotiating, and it's funny because I've seen those exact comments on my channel when they watched it, there's something about the day Thursday. If you put all of this together, that's the shot to fame approach. So SHOT, shot. S stands for same team. You're on the same team. H is have other offers if you can. O stands for know what your operating cash flow looks like. T is take your time. So SHOT, shot. 2, TO, and that stands for Thursdays. O stands for have other offers if you can. And fame is F is fear. A is always be polite. M is know your man. And E is everything is negotiable. Short to fame.
We can take the discussion towards the culture and the differences within culture, right? So you're based out of Belgium. You are providing your services to people from all over the world. And have you noticed if there are differences when it comes to salary negotiation, depending on the culture or location or country that a job candidate lives in?
Yeah, no, that's very true. So it's very sort of case to case basis. And I don't like to say this is how it's done in Asia, because Asia is huge. This is how it's done in Europe. I will say though that that one thing we talked about, the F word, fear, that varies a lot in cultures. So the fear part, I don't want to ask, what are they going to think? I don't see a lot of negotiation happening in Europe or Asia. Not so much, not even South America for that matter. I'm careful. I don't like generalizing. The US as well, it's super interesting. 64% of all men negotiate. What does that mean? 36% don't. They're also Americans. So it's interesting. I think that the fear is one thing that makes a difference in, cultural sort of respect these people. If they've given it to you, they're doing the right thing. Don't question them. And another thing which you didn't ask me, but what I want to share is a lot of our money beliefs are shaped by our childhood. So
correct, yeah,
not to be underestimated. So it could be, a different culture, or you're in a culture which is very individual centric, right? However, you've always been told about like money and squeeze the toothpaste tube till the very last sort of drop, and don't leave the light on, etc. Then that mindset doesn't really leave you. You do value money, but then you also don't always see this self-worth, because the self-worth is sort of taken a bit of a backseat. I'm like, no, I don't deserve it.
correct.
I have never seen that kind of money.
So Sonal, I'm going to leave you off with this. What parting advice can you give any of our listeners, whether they're job candidates or entrepreneurs, but something that you feel is relevant for all?
Yeah, great question. I'm going to quote 2 people actually here. One is Jim Rohn. So you are the sum of 5 people you most hang out with. People have heard this before. I'm like, so okay, I want to leave you with this. Who are these 5 people and what are they feeding you? And if they're feeding you with any form of negativity whatsoever, it might be time to distance yourself from their message, right? It's important to recognize that. And the second thing is Rumi. So be so careful about the advice you receive and the advice that you seek. And Rumi said, when setting out on a journey, do not ask the person who's never left home. Don't ask them for direction. They have no idea. So there's so much information out there. Coaches, consultants, like you're listening to me today. This could be complete garbage for you. So disregard it. If it's useful, take it. If it's not, toss it. But you gotta know the difference and you gotta do your homework. Otherwise, there's like people who are promising you to, and they're going to 10x, 100x your income or your salary and give you like 6-figure client. Oh, everybody's doing that, right? So focus on people who already have what you want and find out how they got there and learn from them. That's my advice.
With that, I want to thank you so much, Sonal, for being a guest on the Business 360 podcast. It was such a great time and it was a pleasure having you here.